Hey everybody, my name is Jesse Grossbull and welcome to the JesseAF show. Today is Monday, March 25th, 2019, episode 43 of my daily podcast. Yeah, that's right, daily. That means every single day I'll be posting a new episode, so please check in tomorrow for my next episode. I'm on Google Play Music, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, and YouTube, so if you have any of those platforms, please subscribe. That way you get notifications for whenever I post a new episode. Today, I'm going to be talking about how I started at being a school bus driver, or how I became a school bus driver. And it's really fun because it wasn't last summer, but it was the summer before last summer. It was the summer of 2016, I think. And so, never mind the year, it doesn't matter. But the point is all summer I was looking for a job. And I probably applied to like 5 different places. I got maybe 3 interviews. And all of them told me that I didn't have enough experience to work at any of those places. I was like, bummed. I was like, oh man, this is annoying. This sucks. I wanted to find a job this summer, and I haven't been able to find a job. I don't know why, but I need more experience, of course. But how do I get experience? From doing work. So I saw this ad for a school bus company, for a school bus driver position all summer long, and I was like, I really don't want to do that. That sounds like a nightmare. It sounds like a very, very complicated job. And all summer I saw it, and I was like, no. And finally, at the end of the summer, I was like, I guess I'm going to do it. I guess I'm going to go out and actually do this. So I put in the application on the website, and literally the next day I got a call, and they're like, hey, you want to go down to or you want to come over to Tilson and get an interview? I was like, okay, this is the fastest I've gotten a response, so definitely. So I went to Mulligan with the intent of being a big school bus driver, because I saw that the pay was $14.75 an hour. And I thought that was a really good pay, and I really needed that kind of pay. I was like, I'll do it. I mean, can't be that hard, right? So I ended up going over to Tilson, and I brought my resume, and I also dressed up in a suit jacket with a tie with my khakis. I don't really have black slacks just because all the black slacks I've tried, they're way too big for me. I don't know why. But, so anyway, I went over there, and I was asked to sit in the kitchen, which is basically the waiting room where we just hang out, and it's a break room. And basically, I was sitting around in there. I was like, okay, this is interesting. Meanwhile, it's August, so it's getting close to school, and I was asked to go upstairs, and I was like, okay, cool, and I went upstairs, and I had the interview, and basically, they asked me what kind of experience I had with children, why I wanted to be a school bus driver, if I had any prior experience with driving at all, with school bus driving and all that stuff. And I was like, nope, no idea. I was a Boy Scout leader in Boy Scouts, so I have experience with working with kids from age 12 to 17, 18 range, but 18 is the age where we age out, so I don't really have experience with 18-year-olds. And So yeah, I basically I basically told them everything that I knew, and they actually told me that I was the most well-dressed person that they've ever interviewed, and I was the most prepared for my interview that they've ever seen. And I thought that was awesome. I really did think that was awesome. And by the end of the interview, they're like, okay, well, we're going to do a drug test. I was like, okay, cool. So did the drug test and came back upstairs. I was like, so when am I going to start? They're like, you can start Monday. I was like, okay, cool. So yeah, it was like, really? So now the journey to being a school bus driver was the fun part, because so I basically started as a person that just rode along on the school bus, and I got to see what it was like. I was basically a student on the school bus. It was a little weird too, because I look like a young guy, so I had a lot of the students on the actual school buses asking me if I was a new student. I was like, nope, I'm learning how to drive a school bus. And they were like, what? And I love that reaction from them. And I would go around on all these different school buses. I would see all the students. I would see how the driver was driving, and I would learn from the driver from just watching. And during the time, I was also, during my midday time, which would be this time, I would go to the office and I would be trained on the permit. And because I had to get my permit immediately, as soon as I could. So I had to read from a book. I had to look over all the pages of the book because I had to pass 5 tests. And those 5 tests were general knowledge, which is the longest test. And then I had to pass passenger, air brakes, and school bus. and those tests were very difficult, and they really encompassed a lot of different things. But I actually ended up taking my permit tests, and I passed general knowledge on the first try, and I passed my school bus endorsement on the first try, and I just had... Well, let me take a step back. Passengers, school bus, air brakes, general knowledge. Maybe it was 4 tests. So, I don't know why I'm drawing a blank with that. But, so I went back and I then passed my passenger endorsement test. And I had to do my my air brakes. And air brakes took a bunch of time for me because I didn't really understand how the system worked with the air brakes. And once I actually understood how the air brake system actually worked compared to disc brakes, how disc brakes kind of clamp onto the brake and air brakes kind of expand inside the brake cylinder, it's a little bit different. So I did that, and I finally passed my air brakes endorsement test, and I did that with 1 wrong. I only got 1 wrong, and it was really awesome. And from there, I then trained to drive the school bus, and that was a lot of fun because I actually got to drive the school bus during the middle of the day, and I got to ride on buses during, normal hours. And I would help with directions. I would help with giving directions to all these different drivers. I would go all over the place. I'd go all the way from Rondout to Kingston to High Falls, all these different places. And it was a lot of fun. I got to see all these different places. I got to see around the area, and I really helped a lot of people with directions because I did know my area. And that was probably the most best thing I could have, because knowing the area is like one of the best things you could do when you're a school bus driver, because you don't know where you're going to go. And so basically I had 5 weeks to practice driving before I got my before I had to do my road test. And it was like, okay, I think I could do this. Can't be too hard. So I actually did really, really good. And I just had to get my under the hood down, because I was being trained on a new method, or on a new test basics, because during my time I was being trained before they implemented the test where you had to go under the hood of the bus. And I actually was trained under the hood, but I didn't have to do that on my road test, which was really, really awesome. But it was even more complicated, because I had to understand all the bus systems underneath the hood, on the bus in general, all the visible stuff. So I really had to know all that stuff, and I had to know how to parallel park the school bus, and how to do alternating backing maneuvers, and I also had to know how to do the railroad crossing maneuver. It was a very, very tricky test, but I passed on my first try, and that was awesome, because that day I was full of light. I was so happy. It was actually snowing on my road test day, and it was a bad day with weather, but I really enjoyed it, and I passed, and it was awesome. And ever since I started driving school buses, I was going down to Highland, I went all over the place, and now I'm finally on my own run. And I started this run that I'm on right now last year, around, I don't know, it was probably around December that I started it. And it was really awesome, because I actually got my own run, because I wanted my own run from the start. And it was like, I need to know the kids, and I need to make sure that I'm on top of things. I know their names, and they're listening to me and all that stuff. And it was tough at first, but I kind of got my hand in the door, and I was like, I know how to do this, and I'll do it right. And it was awesome. And that was the biggest accomplishment that I did with driving. That was the biggest accomplishment I've done with driving in general, just because I had to learn a completely different way of driving, because my car is different, the bus is different. But right now it's the time for the end of the video, because I'm getting really, really close to 14 minutes. And I really hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I know I did. And if you did enjoy this episode, please subscribe, please like, please comment, please share, please dislike if you don't like the episode. And I really hope to see you tomorrow. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow.